Aircraft carriers are an important criterion for measuring the military strength of a major power. Currently, the United States is the world's leading military power, and we don't need to list them. We all know that the number of aircraft carriers the US possesses is very large. I will talk about China because China and Russia are located close to each other. China currently owns 3 aircraft carriers, and although the newest one, Fujian, has just completed its first sea trials, China's current military strength is undeniable. However, as the world's second largest military power, Russia only has 1 aircraft carrier, the aging Admiral Kuznetsov, which is currently undergoing extensive repairs. This state of affairs makes it hard to associate Russia, a military superpower, with having only 1 operational carrier. In terms of both the quantity and quality of aircraft carriers, Russia lags behind other permanent members of the UN Security Council. Even India and Italy rank higher in this aspect, raising questions about why Russia, having inherited 70% of the Soviet Union's military assets, has not built a new aircraft carrier. Has Russia lost the capability to construct carriers? In October 2016, the Admiral Kuznetsov, Russia's flagship, led a battle group to Syria on a mission. During the voyage, the ship emitted thick black smoke, attracting ridicule from Americans, who joked that this was a Russian fleet that didn't even need radar to be detected. This criticism deeply stung Russia. The backward state of Russia's aircraft carrier construction capabilities has long been a sore point for its military. Across the entire fleet, the Admiral Kuznetsov is the only carrier they can deploy, and it is an aging relic from the Soviet era. The Admiral Kuznetsov was built during the Soviet era and had just left the shipyard for sea trials in the Black Sea when the Soviet Union collapsed. Its sister ship, the Varyag, was later purchased by China and transformed into the Liaoning. However, while the Varyag underwent significant upgrades, the Admiral Kuznetsov faced a rough fate. The sudden dissolution of the Soviet Union meant that when it was assigned to the Russian fleet, it was practically stripped bare. Many key components were missing, and it suffered from numerous system deficiencies, leading to future maintenance issues. In 1995, while navigating the Barents Sea, the Admiral Kuznetsov encountered a storm, and multiple boilers failed, nearly causing the ship to run aground. In February 1996, during a mission near Malta, its propulsion system broke down again, and it barely made it back to the naval base in Severomorsk. In 1998, after a major overhaul of the ship's main engines, a mishap during the installation of the fire control system resulted in a 60-ton oil spill, nearly causing an explosion. In 2000, a generator failure led to the death of a sailor, and as a result, the carrier's top speed has remained capped at 18 knots and has never surpassed it since. In 2003, after another overhaul, a fire broke out in the main engine exhaust pipe, forcing the ship to return for repairs. Later that year, high-pressure gas pipe failures delayed the ship's return to service until the following year. Since its commissioning with the Russian Northern Fleet, the Admiral Kuznetsov has been plagued with problems, requiring repairs every 2 or 3 years. Almost every part of the ship has undergone overhauls. In recent years, the ship has also suffered from black smoke incidents, a damaged hull, and a deck fire, further delaying its return to service. Though it has only been in service for less than 30 years, it has spent half of that time in shipyards. Even now, its return to operational status is far from certain. The poor performance of the Admiral Kuznetsov has made Russia a laughingstock internationally. As the largest country in the world and a recognized military power, Russia's inability to field a reliable aircraft carrier is a significant blemish on its reputation. Despite this, there have been frequent reports in recent years about Russia's plans to build new carriers. In 2017, Russia unveiled a model for a 100,000-ton nuclear-powered carrier named Storm. Later, TASS, a Russian news agency, revealed a design for a 70,000-ton nuclear-powered carrier. In 2019, Russia displayed a model of a 60,000-ton conventional carrier. However, while there are ideas and designs, Russia has yet to launch any actual construction of a new aircraft carrier, raising doubts about whether Russia truly possesses the capability to build one. In reality, Russia's struggles in aircraft carrier construction date back to the Soviet era. Since 1910, when an American pilot successfully took off and landed on a cruiser. Aircraft carriers have been around for over a century. But the Soviet Union and Russia have always been latecomers in this field. The UK and the US began building carriers as early as before World War I. Soviet Admiral Kuznetsov recognized the potential of these large vessels and believed they would play a crucial role in future naval warfare. However, the Soviet military command, focused on coastal defense in support of ground forces, did not prioritize aircraft carriers. It wasn't until 1936, as war loomed closer to the Soviet Union, that Stalin decided to develop large combat ships, including 3 battleships, 1 carrier, and 6 cruisers. But with the outbreak of the Soviet-German War in 1941, the carrier program was shelved. After World War II, as the US and UK ramped up their carrier fleets, the Soviet Union resumed its naval development. In 1946, they drafted a 15-year plan that included 4 carriers, but by the 1950s, it was still only a plan. Admiral Kuznetsov, alarmed by the rapid carrier development in the West, pushed for the construction of carriers, leading to his ousting by Nikita Khrushchev in 1956. Khrushchev was more focused on missile and submarine development, believing missiles were the future of warfare. He canceled the carrier program, setting back Soviet carrier development by decades. In 1959, the US deployed its latest nuclear submarine, the Polaris, near Soviet waters, alarming the Soviet government. This prompted the construction of the Moskva, the Soviet Union's first helicopter carrier. In 1963, over the course of the Soviet era, the country built 9 carriers. But they were primarily designed for anti-submarine warfare, not true naval air power projection. By the 1990s, the Soviet Union had finally built its first true aircraft carrier, the Admiral Kuznetsov. But the collapse of the Soviet Union meant that plans for more advanced carriers, like the Ulyanovsk, were never realized. Russia inherited the Admiral Kuznetsov but lost the ability to build carriers independently. Aircraft carrier construction is one of the most complex and expensive engineering projects, and it is estimated that a new Russian carrier would cost at least $4 billion. Given Russia's economic struggles, such a project is a heavy burden. In 2015, Russia's Navy announced a 10-year plan to modernize its fleet, which included building 6 carriers by 2025, but this plan now seems unachievable. Even the construction of new surface ships has slowed, with Russia relying on imports from France for key components. The root cause of Russia's inability to build carriers is not just economic but also technological. When the Soviet Union dissolved, Ukraine took control of the Nikolaev shipyard, the only facility capable of assembling carriers. Although Russia took the Admiral Kuznetsov to safety, they lost access to the shipyard's designs and technical knowledge, leaving them with a carrier they could not fully understand or maintain without Ukrainian help. Since then, Russia has lacked the technical expertise to build new carriers. Russia's current economic difficulties, coupled with the ongoing war in Ukraine, have further derailed any ambitions to build new carriers. For now, Russia's Navy remains sidelined, unable to play a significant role in the war. Without a modern carrier, Russia's Navy will continue to be a weak link in its otherwise formidable military force. The Admiral Kuznetsov, with its rusted deck and worn-out systems, remains a symbol of Russia's past glory but also its current limitations. For the foreseeable future, it seems that Russia will have no choice but to rely on this aging relic of the Soviet era.